At the end of episode number 4 last week, we learned that Elsie and Donna have secrets. And we have to thank good old boy Larry here, because had he not said anything, we wouldn't have known what was going on. See, listen, I told you guys, Larry is clever when he wants to be. Which brings us to episode number 5, titled Dead Silence. Now, the scene opens with Elsie in a nightmare. He's having a nightmare about what actually happened to Larry. So Larry has been dealing with PTSD since the war, clearly. And we learn from this nightmare flashback that Elsie is having that this wasn't Larry's first time spazzing out, because as soon as he walked in on the scene, he said, "Oh no, not again." And he also said that he knew that something like this is going to happen. And it looks like they're in China somewhere. And this is what I was wondering when I did the review last week, is if Larry killed all those people at one time, and it looks like he did. So when they get Larry out of there and get him back to the car, they had a decision to make. They had to decide if they were going to put Larry away or just allow him to keep killing people. And of course, they had to put him away, and Lou didn't really want to do it. He was like, that's our brother, and I really don't think that's a good idea. But Elsie, he was like, oh no, he's got to go. He can't just go around killing people. And Nene was kind of neutral. She was like, she knew something needed to be done, and she relied on Elsie to make that decision. So that's why she gave Lou and Elsie power of attorney over Larry. And Elsie made her that promise that he would deliver Larry back to her as soon as he was better. So this is why Nene is in town. This is why she's going to see Larry, because she's ready for him to come home. I mean, after all, it's been 10 years, right? And Elsie knows in his heart of hearts that Larry's just not ready. He's not ready to come home, but he did say that he needed to go and see his brother. So I'm thinking, regardless of the reaction that he's gonna get out of Larry, he's got to go and see him. I mean, he's dreaming about him. He's on his heart, so he's got to go do something. In our next scene, Elsie has everybody on high alert because of what happened to the Lees and Corey Black. And this is when Orlando told him that he can't make the meeting, that emergency meeting that they're going to have, because he's got to go back to the hospital to take care of Vincent, as they could not find a match for him. And another key point here is when Nevada said that he and Curtis are going to go to the beach after they get his car serviced, because there is some footage that they need to look at. And y'all know what happened at the end of this episode, right? So I'm thinking that footage is going to have some very, 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 very important information on it. And we'll get to that part later. Then we get to Dumb and Dumber here. Listen, Kenny... How naive can this kid be, right? Or this young man? He and Danielle are sitting up having the after sex talk, right? And he's fallen right into Consuela's trap, right into the trap. They're going to have the best time blackmailing him. They've got the sucker. They've got the sucker that they were looking for. Because remember the last episode, she told the girls that she's going to put cameras in all the rooms so that she can record all of their customers while they're vulnerable, at their weakest points. And she really didn't have any trouble prying and being nosy. She wanted to know how he was able to afford her, what type of work he does. And he just told her straight up, I'm a hitman. And she didn't believe him. So this dummy, being eager to impress her, pulled out the gun that he used to kill Corey Black. Stupid. At this point, I'm just wondering how Consuela's going to blackmail him, because he's going to get blackmailed for sure. In our next scene here, we see Brandon pushing out meds like she's a lunchroom cafeteria lady. She had to listen to one lady come in talk about her imaginary dog, Snoopy, and she also had to endure one patient coming in about flying monkeys that didn't want him to get any rest. Oh man, she really has her work cut out for her. But she enjoys this a lot more, I think. But this newfound position does not excuse her from garnering the attention of Brother X. He stared at her the whole time. What's wrong with him? Dude is bugging. So next up, we have Elsie meeting with the members of the table. And we found out that somebody's been running their mouth, because they're all getting knocked off one by one. And LC is thinking that somebody's talking about what's going on at the table. And this is when Antonio Dash crashed their little party. He came in to do two things. He wanted to let them know that Don Frederico had got gunned down at his restaurant the night before, and to also let LC know that he's taking his place. So Nene is getting real sloppy about her conversations. She's having conversations on the stairwell, in the kitchen, just anywhere she can. And of course, Sonia can't be too far behind, snooping and listening. But this time, Junior caught her. She was supposed to be going to get him some coffee, but nosy Sonia had to make a pit stop and listen in on Nene's conversation. She was letting Lauren know that Kenny had a sniper rifle, and whoever killed Corey Black also had a sniper rifle. So she needs Lauren to find Kenny and find him fast, because he's gonna get himself killed. Then in this episode, we also learned that Antonio Dash is having an affair with Dominique. Oh, she ain't playing about getting her kids back. She's gonna sleep with whoever she needs to sleep with and do whatever she needs to do to get her kids back. She said that Alexander has lost his position and he's just a shell of himself, a shell of a man. So she's gonna sleep with whoever's got that power to help her to get her kids back. And Antonio Dash is on deck. He's got next, so it's kind of dirty, but it was also dirty that Alexander pretended for years that Sagittarius was dead. Now, how cruel was that? So I guess she's got to get him back somehow. And moving back to the hospital, we see Vinny, and he's feeling a kind of way, right? Because Orlando and the Duncans are just walking around the hospital. Walking around the hospital like they own the place. His words, not mine. And he told Ruby that he feels like an outsider, like he's not even a part of the kid's life. And he wanted to remind Ruby that the Duncans had a bounty on his head. And Ruby was like, don't nobody care. Don't nobody care they had a bounty on your head. My son is fighting for his life. So just get off all that. And he gave her an ultimatum. He told Ruby that she's going to have to decide if she's with the Duncans or with him. So Kenny made a deal with LoJack for him to hold on to the car. He's going to come back with 60 stacks and buy the car from him. And he gave LoJack $3,000 of good faith money, I guess, for him to hold until he came back to get the car. And when Lauren came back from running food errands, I don't know why she's running food errands for somebody she just met, but Kenny had just gotten away, like by a hair, right? LoJack described Kenny to a T, and she instantly knew that it was Kenny. So Kenny called Larry to let him know that he found his car. And we learned a little bit more about this family dynamic here. Looks like we may have some sibling rivalry here, because Kenny is trying to get his dad to give him this car, right? And I think that maybe before all of this happened, that he was going to give Kenny the car anyway. That's what it sounds like. And of course, since Larry went away for all these years, his stuff was probably auctioned off, given away. I mean, who knows? But Kenny said that he found it, and Larry had some hesitation with giving him the car, because the money that he got from the honey hole, he already spent it at the Hellfire Club. So now he's asking for more money. So of course, Larry's not thinking about giving him that sort of money for a car that he only spent $300 for. So there was a little tension back and forth there. Then Kenny said, well, maybe I should go and kiss LC's you-know-what, just like Curtis is doing. Maybe I can just get the car that way. And oh my gosh, what did he say that for? Because that set Larry off. And it made him mad. He was like, well, LC doesn't take care of my family. I take care of my family. So here we see a little bit more tension between the brothers. So back at the hospital, the doctor delivered the news to Orlando and Ruby that none of the family members on Orlando's side was a match. So here comes Vinny. Vinny wants to call his family to see if someone can donate some bone marrow to their son. And because of this, Orlando wants to have the doctor treat their son 24/7 around the clock. And the doctor said, yeah, he can do that, but his hospital is at UCLA in New York. So here we have another situation where someone else will be staying in New York. Looks like Ruby is going to have to stay there now. Just like Nene, she has to stay in New York now because, for one, Larry ain't coming home anytime soon. And they got to keep looking for Kenny. So this keeps these two in New York for sure. So it looks like Lauren finally caught up with Kenny. And he's trying to take Brother Minister out. And to be honest, if I didn't know any better, if I was just looking at this, I mean, they're like two kids in their backyard trying to play cops and robbers or something. Like, they're very immature, both of them. I also found out in this episode that I'm not the only one who doesn't like Harris. Turns out Nene didn't like him either. And she said she never liked him. She said that when Harris would come over, she'd always feel as if he was in their pockets. And I'm sure she was right. Harris cannot be trusted, period. A lot of us have been wondering where Paris was, and Rio told Lauren that she's in Greece, living her best life, and Antonio Dash has his all-access pass to the Hellfire Club. At least this is what it seems like. He gave Consuelo an envelope full of cash, but for what? You know, it's 24 hours. He's got 24 hours to do whatever it is he got to do. Then his time is up. And back to the beginning of our final scene here. Elsie got a phone call and they all left. Everybody got up from the table and they left. But they didn't leave without Donna getting the satisfaction of telling Elsie and Chippy herself that Elijah and Sasha were engaged. Well, so she thinks. But they all headed to the beach, and the detective told Elsie that they had found a body. And it looks like the crabs and, stuff in the water had gotten to her face pretty bad. But then Elsie went up to the body to identify it. And initially he said, no, that's not her. It can't be her. But what gave it away is the bracelet that Sasha was wearing. It's the same identical bracelet that Elijah has. And this is how Donna knew that it was Sasha. And this concludes my review of Carl Weber's The Family Business, Season 4, Episode number 5, titled Dead Silence. And if you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. I'd appreciate it. And if you're a fan of Carl Weber's The Family Business, go ahead and sub to this channel because I do video breakdowns like this all the time. Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode of Ruthless TV, you guys, and I'll see you on the next one.